And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Ooh, again, a very short break, only a couple of seconds. But we have returned with our next series. The vetoes are done. The match is set. Ooh. And I'm just fixing up the player names as spawning in the bottom right-hand corner. We have the South Korean Terran player representing himself. He is teamless. He is also one of the best Terrans in the world. It is Cure. And spawning in the top left-hand corner. Oh my god. Jesus. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing Mystery Gaming. It is RagnaroK. Now, I think this is a 13-12. I apologize. I was a little bit distracted. I wasn't quite looking at the supplies at the time. This is a gas pool opener here. Very aggressive in nature is all I have to say for what RagnaroK is up to. And I'm excited. I am excited. I think this is going to be a roach rush, if I'm not mistaken. For now, we have a couple of links on the way. We're about to hit 100 gas. Never mind, we're going into link speed. We pull out of gas immediately, actually, so we're going for a link flood. We should be expanding behind this, though. Should be. As back at home, Cure is not going for the low ground at 2 racks. Is going for a racks expand instead. The links are moving out across the map. We are going for that expansion that we were talking about, but that we have a lot of links in production here for RagnaroK. They're still very committed. Very committed here from RagnaroK. Now, this should force a cancel. This should get a kill on the building SCV, and then eventually cancel this low ground CC as well. Ooh, Cure, okay. First Reaper is moving out. He did not SCV scout. Bear that in mind. So this is going to be a late reaction here from Cure. The Reaper is moving out. So the Lings are getting ready. The Overlord does get confirmation that there is no low ground wall. And the CC is on the low ground as well. As the Reaper does come across some Lings, SCV goes down. Does the Reaper turn back around? Now, because of the fast link speed, we can actually catch the Reaper. It can go down. As the Queen pops, link speed is about to kick in. Speaking of, here we go for the round. He wants the Marines, and the Marines are going to fall. The SCVs as well. This is getting out of hand. We force a cancel. And we should cancel the CC as well. Reaper racing back home, but what's the Reaper going to do? Against Speedlings, it cannot engage. The CC was almost done and is forced to be cancelled. Cure in a rough position. Cure behind in the economy here. He's on 1 base. He has less SCVs. Again, he was not expecting for link speed to really come into play. Did catch him off guard. And with that, RagnaroK, he has a nice lead for himself. He's droning up quite heavily. Cure double expanding. Throwing down his natural and his third at the same time. Around the same time. Trying to catch back up. But this is a great start for RagnaroK. Cure can bounce back, but for the time being, he's stuck at home. The starport is delayed, the add-ons are delayed, which means the abundance of Hellions are going to be later than usual. It's going to be a little bit before Cure can really be active on the map. So we'll see if he can bring it back. So there is that add-on swap, and now we do have more Hellions in production. Natural base still not taken. RagnaroK going for a very fast lair. Interesting. Gases are being taken. This could be 2-base Muta. This could be for 2-base Spire. We'll see if the 4th gas is taken as well. Again, there's typically not much reason to go for a lair this early on. But we'll see. We could see RagnaroK throw down an early Baneling Nest as well and try to be very safe, which is possible. But there is no Baneling Nest. This is looking like Mutas. Across the map, Natural is being taken. We have an add-on swap. This is going to be for Banshee production, and there we go. Banshees are on the way. Cloak as well. And there's that fourth gas. Unless it's something like a Hydra Rush. We'll see. There is that Bailey Nest, but there's the Spire that we were talking about. So it is 2-base Spire. It can work wonders, specifically against what Cure is doing. Now, the reason for this is because Cure's Marine production is very delayed. His production is so heavily delayed. He's focusing on getting Hellions and Banshees out, none of which shoot up. Stim is delayed as a result. And even if we had it, again, we just don't have that many Marines to work with. So these mutas, they have a lot of potential for damage. They have a lot of potential. Ling dips in, confirms the additional Hellions. Now, thankfully, Cure is going to be cutting Hellions at 3. He's not continuing Hellion production, and he's swapping a little bit faster here into these Raxes, into the Marine production. Meanwhile, this Reaper is looking for a scout, dips in towards the main, but no, is going to be denied. Reaper does fall. As Cure, even scouting the lair at this point isn't even a tell. It doesn't give him enough information. As mutas are in production, back at home, turrets are on. Interesting. So Cure, despite not really seeing too much, he's accurately reading how much danger he's in, and he is turtling hard here, throwing down turrets in the main, in the mineral line, in the natural. And the turrets have been spotted. RagnaroK, he does see the turrets here at the natural base. He is aware. Mutas reveal themselves to the Viking. We have 2 Banshees dipping into the main. There is a lot of potential for damage, as the mutas are going to be threatening the gas geysers in the main base. Likewise, RagnaroK losing a lot of drones. 6 workers go down. The mutas, they're being brought back home. They have to deal with these Banshees. And they will, but not before 8 workers fall. And this is a really good amount of damage here from Cure. Despite having very little map control, he gets 8 workers. Meanwhile, here we go. The Lings, they come in from behind. We're collapsing on the army of Cure, and he just doesn't have enough. He doesn't have the numbers. He's fighting without the support of his turrets. The Marines go down. We have a couple of mines here at the natural base, so it looks like Cure can hold on to his natural. At least the mine. Oof. Big mine shots are going to be going off. The depot is going to fall. The boys are being pulled. A lot of damage is being done by that turret, but it looks like the Lings are breaking in. Barely, it's not going to be enough. A solid defense here from Cure. RagnaroK being a little bit wasteful with his Lings, trying to force the issue. He needs to calm down. Not just Lings, he also lost 7 mutas in that attack, fighting over that turret into those Marines. And now the 3rd base is being taken. And Cure, he is slowly getting back into this. I would have assumed that we would have gone for the gas mining workers, but wait, you know, we go for the factory. It's all good. For status thing. Back at home, RagnaroK, he's just droning, saturating his 3rd, working on his 4th. Muta's just giving him a lot of map control, as he forces another stim. Again, every stim is just draining energy out of these metamax, making the eventual push that much weaker. As we have 2-2 on the horizon, and the army is moving out. Speaking of, we do have a drop across the map as well, forcing all the mutas back home. Getting a couple of workers, creating an opening here for the rest of the army. Oh, as RagnaroK does have to be very careful. It's out one of those widow mines. There's another. Oh god! Up, up, up! You can see RagnaroK panicking a little bit there. does hold on. And I would still say that RagnaroK has the advantage. He has a lead in this game. He has map control. Cure, he's trying to bring himself back into this. Throwing down a 4th CC. Working on Thors. Spreading out mines all over the map. All over his bases. But because of the map control, RagnaroK, he is soon to max out. Oof. He does have a lot of supply in these mutas, to be fair, and everything that Cure has shoots up, so a fight could still go Cure's way. As the mutas attempt to dance with the army, we do have a link counterattack. Is slipping into that 3rd base. We have plenty of Marines back at home to defend. Oh, and RagnaroK is getting supply blocked. This is still a pretty intense moment for him. The supplies are actually pretty close. The upgrades from RagnaroK aren't looking too good either. The reason for that is because he's spending so much gas on these mutas that his 2-2 is delayed. Intentionally so, just because we have so many mutas. Oof. Again, as the mutas try to counterattack, there's a Thor waiting for them. Decent mine connection on those lings. But at least RagnaroK is able to buy time to max out. Likewise, so is Cure. Cure also is about to max. The armies are going to be really interesting. So the fight can go either direction. I think a lot of the fight is going to come down to the angle of the mutas and also the Widow Mine positioning. If the mine shots go off on the Ling Bane, or on anything really, I do think that Cure can take a fight. Take a fight as the mutas, they dive into that center base. Oof! Big Thor volleys. Big connections on those mutas. And yeah, just because of the amount of Thors and Widow Mines, like it's, oh god, it's gonna be so difficult to engage. We do have a lot of Banelings though. Looking at the units tab, that is 80 oh my god. We have more Banelings than there are Marines. But that's why the Widow Mine shots are so important. But RagnaroK, he's getting ready for a surround. He's coming in from every single angle. Ooh, big mine shots are going up. Massive connections on those Banelings. Is it going to be enough? It looks like it may just be. One Thor survives the Marines. They keep on pushing. We saw 2 massive connections on Banelings. And that is enough for Cure to gain ground to push forward. RagnaroK, he needs time to rebuild those Banelings to go for another fight. He also lost a lot of his mutas as well. And it looks like this may just be too much. Curie's getting a 5th base behind this. He's reinforced with more Marines, more Widow Mines, even a couple of Marauders. And the Marauders will make this engagement that much more difficult for RagnaroK. He's going to try to catch some of these reinforcements. He's going for a massive counterattack even. He does shave off some units, but his Evo chambers are exposed. The hatcheries are going down. I don't think he can ever defend. He may not have to. As he busts into the mineral line, he's pushing into the main base. Cure, I'm sure he's going to commit to the base trade. And he's going to be pushing into Banelings. Oof. Good targeting there from Cure. No Banelings left. They can keep on pushing, but the boys are being pulled, and with these reinforcing Banelings, I do think that RagnaroK, he can clean up that attack. He can defend. Meanwhile, we just see Cure just busting into the main. Taking down the Spire. Ooh, Thor is going to get surrounded. Now, 3-3 was denied, but the Banelings are rolling on in. The spread is good, the split is good, but there are no Widow Mines. And RagnaroK cleans this army up. Speaking of the Widow Mines. Oof. Oh my god, big connections from those mines. Despite that, we do see RagnaroK trying to collapse on this army. He's trying to clean this up. Does take down the medevac. Every stim is hurting Cure that much more. Cure is holding. But he does force the army back. Whew. Oh, the mines are about to reset. RagnaroK, he did lose his hive. He has to rebuild from scratch, but he does have a lot of tech. He has an Ultra Cavern, Infestation Pit. Not the big Widow Mine shot is going to go off. This is still looking very close. Cure did lose his third, but he's going to be landing his main as his third. He's got a center fourth. He's got a fifth on the way. Cure has a decent base count, just not a good worker count. You can see Cure down to 46 SCVs. Doesn't have enough to saturate all these bases that he's taking. Meanwhile, back at home, we see RagnaroK also licking his wounds. Unlike his opponents, RagnaroK, he was able to preserve a lot of his workers, so he has a decent drone count. Just lacking a little bit in the tech. As the lair is done. Now, the other big thing here is that, remember, those Evo chambers were sniped, so RagnaroK, he's stuck on 2-2 for a little bit. He will just straight up have worse link main than his opponent's Marines. Won't be able to trade as efficiently. He never got into Adrenal either. He never got Adrenal Glands. As both players are settling down. Remaxing, rebuilding. Cure pushing out here with pretty impressive army. Doesn't have too many Marines though. Oh, and I don't think he's seen the Ultras until now. The Ultras have been spotted. I was wondering, where's the rest of his army? It is coming in from behind. It's a bit of a staggered attack here from Cure. He is moving out of position though, and he is leaving himself vulnerable to these run-bys. Oof, big mine shots. A very inefficient trade here from RagnaroK. Oh my god, so many links go down. At the same time, these mutas are wreaking havoc here in this mineral line, but you could see RagnaroK just plummet in the supplies. Those Widow Mine connections were insane. And now RagnaroK is in a lot of trouble. Cure is maxed. He has a better army. He's on 3-3. He's super maxed, actually, because of his low worker count. And yeah, it looks like RagnaroK, he knows that he can't fight this. He's going to try to go for another run-by, another counterattack. He's keeping his ultras back. As the mutas dive in, but a lot of mutas go down. Cure, he barely loses anything back home. And the ultras are melting to the mass amount of marauders that Cure has. He takes down the center base. He's going to be threatening the southern base. Here comes RagnaroK for potentially a final fight. Big fungals. But it's not enough. The fungals are not enough. The Marine Marauder stands strong. GG gets called, and Cure will take game number 1. Oh, GG. Despite what I would say, RagnaroK having a really strong start, he had a very strong start to that game with his, of course, gas spawning pool opener. With his fast gas and his fast pool. He did have a really strong start. The mutas, not so much. The 2-base muta play, it was interesting. I think initially there was a good fight at the third, if you remember, when he swallowed up the army. But then when he tried to push into the natural, I feel like he threw away a lot of his advantages, and then things kind of stabilized from that point. Of course, we eventually saw the massive push of Cure through the center, and we ended up in a really weird base trade scenario that RagnaroK was able to bounce back from. But in that base trade, we did see that a lot of tech was sniped, and it really did hurt RagnaroK, right? He lost his Evo chambers, lost his hive, and that really did slow him down, did impact him as the game went longer. Now we're getting into the second game here. Spawning In the bottom left-hand corner, we have the South Korean Terran representing himself. It is Cure. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg representing Mystery Gaming. It is RagnaroK. Catching up with the chat. How is Cure winning? This is illegal, Papi. It was very impressive from Cure. Again, I do think that part of that was also RagnaroK overextending. I do think that there were some fights that he took that just weren't very good, that were just a little bit wasteful and, yeah, not the most efficient, especially in the lead up to eventually that big kind of base trade scenario. So yeah, we'll see if RagnaroK can bring it back. Personally, I just want an ace match. That's I'm greedy like that, Bobby. I'm greedy. As most casters are. I just want more games. So personally, I would like an ace match, but we'll see. We'll see. Cure is coming in as the favorite player, and we saw that even despite being behind, he is tenacious, doesn't give up, fights back very hard. And we'll see how RagnaroK is able to adapt to it. Catching up with that. Widowmines make me cry, no cap. I mean, Widowmines, they're a little bit give and take, you know? Sure, there are moments where we have massive mine connections, and if you remember, oh my god, I'm brought back to the fight in the center of the map when RagnaroK went for a full surround with 80 banelings. Remember that? And we had 2 massive mine connections. I think 2 Widowmines on their own killed like at least 20 banelings. At least 20 banelings on their own. But the flip side of things, you can also use them for like friendly fire, right? Like there have been moments, definitely in StarCraft games, where the Widowmine hurts the Terran more than it helps them. But I guess like at the very, very highest level of play, it's difficult to make that happen just because, you know, Terran players they do work very hard. That's like retargeting those Widowmines or unburrowing and reburrowing. It can be hard to really make that. It can be a little bit harder at times to make that occur. But that is also why we don't really get to see Lingbane Muta too often. Lingbane Muta, it's a very fragile army, as we saw, and there's a reason why it fell off in popularity, and Lingbane Hydra kind of came into fruition instead. Of course, a big reason for that is also the inclusion of lurkers, and lurkers also kind of create a good transition point for a Lingbane Hydra army, and they allow the army to just tech into Hive Tech, into Vipers in a little bit more of a fluid fashion. But for a very long time, Lingbane Muta, that was the norm, that was the standard. But again, one wrong move and you can lose a big flock of mutas. Whether it's Thor shots, Widowmines, Marines. It's very delicate, it's very delicate. As we do see Cure, just going into his 3rd CC before Starport, a very economic opener here at a Cure. Very standard as well, going into Hellion production, into eventually Banshees. Nothing too fancy here at a Cure. But Cure, he doesn't have to be fancy, right? Like, he doesn't have to have the wild, he doesn't have to be like Gumiho, right? Gumiho, he's got wild, crazy builds that he comes out with, and it catches his opponent off guard, and because they're not used to it, they don't really know the best response, or how to respond, or even what to scout for, and what to look for. For Cure, it's just, he's almost like Innovation back in the day, where Innovation was just like pure mechanics sort of thing. He will just out macro you, he will just out control you, he's just play better than you, almost in any way. Cure is very similar in that aspect. I do think that he is missing something to like not really hold that persona as strongly as Innovation did. But I've talked about this with Asher before, about how like Maru, he's like very like counterattack intensive. You got Bjorn, who's very APM and like control intensive, and they're very flashy, right? Like Maru and Bjorn and Gumiho, they're all very flashy players, and they can stand out because of that. And Clem is very similar to that as well. And Cure, because, you know, there isn't anything that really stands out about him at times, like, he can be overlooked. It's a shame. Like, when it comes to, like, the mainstream StarCraft audience, they often do overlook Cure, and they hear his name, they know he's a good player, but they don't know how good he really is, and at times they can be surprised when Cure shows up and when he, like, 3-0s Clem and, you know, has a deep run in the tournament. I think another reason for that is, in a way, kind of like innovation. Cure also doesn't have, like, he doesn't have a bombastic personality, or he's not too, he's not as, like, charismatic as, like, Bjorn, for example. Bjorn is he's very easy to get behind. A very wholesome player. Oliveira is very similar. Like, Oliveira and Bjorn, like, you can, they're almost kind of like underdogs in a way at times. It can be really easy to cheer for them. Maru, really young, at times really cheeky. They come off as a little bit more sociable, and yeah, I guess kind of what I'm getting at is that, you know, Cure, he's good. He's pretty insane, and at times he doesn't get the attention that he deserves. That's what I'm getting at, despite being an amazing player. As we're getting into the Swift farm, nothing too crazy. Again, standard play out of Cure. RagnaroK looking to dive on this army. Does take down one of those Hellions. It is going to be Ling Bane play out of RagnaroK. Interesting. This time he skipped a lot of his tech. He skipped his Spire, he skipped his Hydrogen, and he's going straight into an Infestation Pit instead. So this is looking like Ling Bane into Hive Tech, potentially Ling Bane into Ultras. Before we can really get into that, as there hasn't really been too much going on, you know, RagnaroK has been taking bases, spreading creep. Cure is working on his first push. We have hit the 7-minute mark. The creep is slowly receding. The tanks are getting within range. And RagnaroK is under threat. At the same time, he goes for a Ling counterattack, but no, Cure has plenty back at home to defend. He deflects the counterattack, and he's focusing on set push. He even has Hellbats to support his tanks from behind in case there were a surround. Speaking of, the surround is coming, but there are Bailings in the mix. Here we go. RagnaroK, he's looking to collapse on this army. Takes down the Hellbats, will take down the tanks. Not the most efficient trade out of RagnaroK. That was a lot of Bailings. A lot of Bailings went down there, but he does hold on to that hatchery. But is he ready for the second wave? Because Cure, he's reinforcing. He saved the majority of his Marines. He did lose all of his Hellbats and he lost both of his tanks, so he has less of a backbone to this army, but the sheer amount of Marines is pretty insane here. And Cure, he's coming in once again. He's not giving RagnaroK the time that he needs to respread that creep. At least not on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, RagnaroK, he just counterattacks. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to try to tango with this at all. I'm going to go for a massive counterattack. But we have reinforcements back at home. We have Banshees back at home as well. These Lings, can they find damage? The mine! Up! Up! Oof! Big connection on those Lings. The counterattack is deflected. And Cure is leapfrogging forward. This is a really awkward location for the Hive. No, this is so unfortunate. I just realized where the lair was. Here we go. The Ling Bane rolls in from behind as well. It looks like RagnaroK should clean this up for a second time. Was in a bit of trouble, but does take down the tank. But, like, it just goes to show he cannot give up this position. This hatchery is so important. It's his Hive. It just, like, didn't register with me until now. It's already halfway dead. Meanwhile, Banshees are wreaking havoc on the right-hand side. They take down 3 drones, and Curie just keeps the pressure up. Oh, boy. Just keeping the pressure on as he takes a 4th base. Meanwhile, RagnaroK, you can see that he's having a hard time just keeping up with the macro of Cure. Cure has already remaxed. RagnaroK, he's down 40 supply. We have Vipers in production. We have another army here on the right-hand side. RagnaroK does leave some Ling Bane behind, though. Got the bites. some decent mine shots, not amazing. As Cure is being forced to pick up, forced out of here. But now he can focus on his push on the right-hand side instead. There is some Ling Bane waiting for him, but not anywhere near as much as over here on the left. I think the goal here is that Cure wants RagnaroK to send some reinforcements over and support the right-hand side while he comes in on the left from behind to try to snipe that base. But RagnaroK, he's unflinching. And he's collapsing on this army. The mines! Oof. Some of them do go off, but the majority do go down without their shots. It's going to be a kill, not a cancel on that center base. RagnaroK, he's closing the supply, or closing the gap in the supplies. Again, that was a very efficient fight from RagnaroK. He was able to kill the majority of those mines without them ever trading. He caught Cure with his pants down. And RagnaroK has now maxed out. Oh god. Oh my god. A very juicy mine shot on the right hand side. Ay. As we do see a massive Ling counterattack. Do we have reinforcements? We do, but not too many. It looks like this time RagnaroK, he's gonna get damage done. He gets into the mineral line, takes down the SCVs. And he's forcing a bit of a base trade. A lot of workers are falling at the same time. Cure is pushing forward. That hive is still very exposed. Base on the right is going to go down. The hive should fall as well. A big pick-off. Unfortunate location for that hive. Marines get cleaned up, but the damage has been done. As we still have Marines left over on the right. Meanwhile, 24 SCVs went down, but we got 19 workers alongside a hatchery on the right. The hive on the left. GG gets called. It's just too much to handle, and Cure will take the series 2-0. GG. The pressure from Cure was insane. Just did not let up. And again, RagnaroK, he was forced in a really awkward position there where he just had to fight desperately to hold on to that base, to hold on to his hive essentially, even at times fighting off of creep just because he was that desperate. Oh, GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Cure for taking the series. My condolences to RagnaroK. What I will say is that RagnaroK, he had a really solid game one. Game one, RagnaroK, he was ahead from the early game. He had a lead, he had an advantage, and it slipped through his fingers. It did slip through his fingers, and Cure was able to bounce back in game one, bring it all back, and yeah, take that first game, gain a little momentum, and here in game two, he was really stepping into his stride. Cure, he was in so much control. Every time RagnaroK attempted to counterattack, Cure was ready for it. Even when it came to RagnaroK collapsing on the armies of Cure, he was trading so efficiently. Very impressive play there out of Cure. And he has his next opponent ready and waiting. It looks like it was a shorter series. Sorry, it looks like it was a faster series. But Dark versus Hero did conclude.